The scent of parchment and lemon polish was a comforting blanket, familiar and predictable. Elias Thorne sat tucked away in a quiet corner of the Hogwarts library, a half-finished essay on ancient runes spread before him. The late afternoon sun, filtered through the arched windows, cast long, dusty beams across the tables. It was his final year, and all Elias truly desired was to glide through it unnoticed, graduate, and find a quiet, respectable job, perhaps in magical accounting or even herbology, far from anything that might require heroic acts or, worse, magical confrontation. He traced a finger over a particularly intricate rune, his mind wandering. He was a Hufflepuff, loyal to a fault, perceptive in ways most people missed, yet burdened by a pervasive fear that clung to him like a damp cloak. It was the fear of failure, of not being enough, of causing harm. The memory was always there, a phantom ache behind his ribs, a burst of uncontrolled magic, a scream, the small, still form of his younger sister, Lily, unconscious after a potion mishap years ago. He'd only been 10, experimenting in the garden shed, and his carelessness had nearly cost her. She'd recovered, eventually, but the guilt had never truly faded, a constant whisper that told him he was fundamentally flawed, a danger to those he cared for. "Thorne, there you are, you reclusive badger." The shout, vibrant and unapologetically loud, shattered the library's peace. Elias flinched, nearly tipping his inkwell. Madame Pants glared from behind a towering stack of forbidden books, a silent, deadly promise in her eyes. Leo Finch, a whirlwind of tousled ginger hair and Gryffindor robes, skidded to a halt beside Elias's table, grinning unrepentantly. "Sorry, Madame Pants," he called, though his smile belied any true remorse. "Just a quick word with my favorite Hufflepuff." Elias sighed, a small, weary sound. Leo. His best friend, his opposite in almost every way. Where Elias sought peace, Leo chased thrills. Where Elias planned, Leo plunged headfirst. Leo was brave, charismatic, and possessed an unwavering belief in Elias that Elias himself couldn't fathom. "What is it, Leo?" Elias asked, gathering his scattered concentration. "I'm trying to finish this. Professor Grimshaw will have my hide if it's late." Leo waved a dismissive hand. "Grimshaw's a softie. Anyway, this is far more important. You won't believe the rumors I've been hearing." He leaned in conspiratorially, his eyes alight with mischief. "About the Whomping Willow." Elias felt a prickle of unease. The Whomping Willow. A familiar landmark, always dangerous, but lately, different. There had been whispers, low and unsettling, of students feeling an unnatural coldness near it, of the branches moving with a slow, deliberate malevolence that went beyond its usual aggressive thrashing. "What about it?" Elias asked, trying to keep his voice neutral. "People are saying it's changed," Leo whispered, clearly enjoying Elias's growing discomfort. "Not just aggressive, but hungry. They say it's gotten quiet sometimes, too quiet, and then boom. A branch snaps out of nowhere, faster than ever." Elias shivered despite himself. He'd observed it, too. From a distance, of course. He'd seen the way the air shimmered oddly around its gnarled trunk, the almost imperceptible tremor that ran through the ground when no wind stirred. It wasn't the usual grumpy tree. It felt ancient, malevolent. Wrong. "It's always been dangerous, Leo," Elias stated, trying to sound firm. "We're supposed to stay away from it. Especially you. You always get too close to trouble." Leo scoffed. "Exactly. And that's where the fun is. Besides, this isn't just the usual danger. This is a mystery. Remember that old caretaker, Filch, muttering about it being cursed last week? He practically scuttled away when I asked for details." Elias pinched the bridge of his nose. "Filch mutters about everything being cursed. This is our final year, Leo. Can't we just enjoy it? No heroics, no mysteries, just OWLS, NEWTS, and job applications." The words came out with more desperation than he intended. The thought of any kind of incident, any danger, made his stomach clench. Leo's bright expression dimmed slightly, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. He knew about Lily, of course, knew the invisible shackles that bound Elias. Come on, Elias. This isn't about being a hero. It's about curiosity. People are scared of it now, really scared. And that's new. I heard some first years talking about a palpable dread coming off it. That's got to be more than just a grumpy tree, even for a whomping willow. Elias swallowed, a dry knot in his throat. Palpable dread. He felt it too, a subtle but insistent thrumming beneath the surface of the school's usual magical hum. He'd even seen a group of centaurs skirting an unusually wide berth around the edge of the forbidden forest where the willow stood, their proud heads bowed in what looked like reverence or perhaps fear. His observational skills were a curse sometimes. Look, I'm just saying it's probably nothing, just students being dramatic. It's always been an aggressive tree. Let's leave it alone. Elias tried to inject authority into his voice, but it came out thin. Leo, however, was already halfway out of his seat. Exactly why we need to check it out. Not too close, just a look. There's something going on. I can feel it. And besides, he lowered his voice. Though his grin was back, some Slytherins were boasting they'd gone closer than anyone, daring others to beat them. Can't let those serpents win, can we? Elias groaned. Of course. Gryffindor pride, mixed with Leo's innate thirst for adventure, was a potent, dangerous cocktail. Leo, no. This is a terrible idea. What if something actually happens? You know what I'm like when things go wrong. He tried to keep the tremor from his voice, but failed. The guilt, sharp and sudden, was a physical blow. Leo, sensing Elias's inner turmoil, softened. He placed a reassuring hand on Elias's shoulder. Hey, nothing's going to happen. Not to us. I just want to see. Maybe grab a quick photo with a charm, prove we were there, and then we're back. I need a witness. And who's more reliable than you, Elias? You see everything. Elias looked into Leo's earnest, daring eyes. Leo truly believed in him, saw past the fear to the loyal, observant friend underneath. And that loyalty, that genuine affection, was Elias's greatest strength, but also his greatest weakness. He couldn't let Leo go alone, not if Leo was determined. If something happened, Elias knew he'd never forgive himself. His sister's face flashed in his mind, then Leo's, full of life and light. The thought of that light being extinguished because Elias was too afraid to act, to even be there, was intolerable. All right, Elias muttered, feeling the dread settle heavy in his gut. But we stay well back. No heroics, Leo. Promise me. Leo's grin returned, wider than ever. Promise. Just a quick peek. You're the best, Thorn. The late afternoon had begun to bleed into early evening by the time they slipped out of the castle, using a lesser-known passage near the kitchens. The air outside was cooler, carrying the damp scent of earth and encroaching darkness. As they walked towards the forbidden forest, a peculiar silence seemed to descend. The usual cheerful chatter of students, the distant calls of owls, even the rustle of leaves in the breeze, all seemed to fade, replaced by an oppressive quiet that pressed in on Elias. See? Leo whispered, eyes wide, as they approached the tree line. Even the crickets are quiet out here. It's creepy. Elias nodded, his throat tight. He noticed the details, the way the long grasses were bent away from the willow as if recoiling, the subtle, metallic tang in the air that wasn't quite lightning, not quite blood, but something in between. And then, through a gap in the ancient oaks, he saw it. The Whomping Willow. It wasn't merely a large, aggressive tree. It was a monstrous sentinel, its gnarled trunk thicker than ever, its limbs, twisted and dark, seemed to writhe even when motionless. But it was the aura that struck Elias. A thick, oppressive pall of malevolence radiated from it, a palpable dread that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. The first years hadn't exaggerated. This wasn't the product of imagination. This was real. The air around it felt heavy, cold, as though it were actively draining the warmth and light from the world. Elias could almost feel a silent hum of power, dark and ancient, emanating from its very core. It was watching them. He was certain of it. Merlin's beard, Leo breathed, his usual bravado momentarily quelled by the sight. It really is different. Despite the cold dread, Elias's Hufflepuff loyalty spurred him forward, albeit cautiously. Let's just get close enough for you to take your picture, then we leave, Elias urged, pulling at Leo's sleeve. This feels wrong, Leo. Very wrong. Just a little closer, Leo insisted, ignoring Elias's growing panic. He took a few more steps, his hand hovering over his robe pocket where his enchanted camera was usually kept. He seemed mesmerized, drawn in by the tree's sinister allure. I want to see what that thing is at the base of the trunk. Is that a root system or... Suddenly, the stillness shattered. There was no warning, no rustle of leaves. The air around the willow rippled, like heat haze, but dark. A deep, resonant thrum vibrated through the ground, rattling Elias's teeth. One of the willow's massive, lowest branches, thicker than an ox, shot out, not thrashing wildly, but with an almost predatory grace, straight towards Leo. Leo, move. Elias shrieked, his voice cracking with terror. He lunged forward, intending to tackle his friend, to pull him back, but he was too slow. The branch didn't sweat. It grabbed. It wrapped around Leo's waist with sickening speed, its bark seeming to shift and writhe, forming an impossibly tight, woody cage. Leo gasped, a strangled sound of terror, his eyes wide with shock as he was lifted, dangling, his feet kicking uselessly in the air. Elias! Leo screamed, his voice raw, laced with utter disbelief and agony. Elias, help me! Panic seized Elias, cold and absolute. His past guilt roared in his ears, blinding him. Not again. Not Leo. He scrambled for his wand, his hand shaking so violently he nearly dropped it. Release him, he yelled, pointing his wand, though he didn't even know what spell to cast against something so ancient, so malicious. He knew it would be useless anyway. The willow's curse bypassed typical wards. The branch that held Leo began to retract, pulling him inexorably towards the gaping maw at the base of the trunk, a dark, hollow space that now seemed to yawn wider, revealing not bark and wood, but something blacker, deeper, impossible. Leo thrashed, screaming, his hands clawing at the woody prison. His face was contorted in terror, his eyes fixed on Elias, pleading. Finite incantatem. Expelliarmus. Elias shouted, casting every defensive and disarming spell he could think of, but the magic simply fizzled upon contact with the willow's surface, absorbed, vanishing without effect. The branch tightened, and Elias heard a sickening crunch. A final, desperate, heart-wrenching scream tore from Leo's throat as he was dragged into the dark, impossible opening. A flash of Gryffindor red was the last thing Elias saw before the gnarled bark seemed to ripple and close around his best friend, swallowing him whole. Then silence. The Whomping Willow stood still, its branches slowly returning to their previous, menacing positions. The dark, hollow space at its base was gone, as if it had never been there. The oppressive dread, however, intensified, pressing down on Elias, making it hard to breathe. Elias stood frozen, his wand still trembling uselessly in his hand, staring at the spot where Leo had vanished. His mind reeled, unable to comprehend. Leo was gone. Vanished. Swallowed by that thing. He could still hear Leo scream, the agony, the desperate plea. Guilt, sharp as a knife, plunged into his heart. It's my fault. I let him come. I didn't stop him. I always knew something like this would happen. I'm cursed. Everything I touch turns to this. The willow stood, silent and still, an unholy monument to consumption. It was waiting, watching, and Elias, alone in the deepening twilight, felt its malevolent gaze upon him, its silent promise of a similar fate. Leo was gone. And Elias was still there, crippled by fear, utterly alone, with the horrifying truth of the willow's new, demonic nature looming over him. What had he done? And more terrifyingly, what was he supposed to do now? Elias spent the night in a haze of terror and frantic worry. He'd alerted Madame Pomfrey and Professor Sprout, Leo's head of house, but their initial investigations yielded nothing. The willow, when approached by even a trained adult, merely thrashed aggressively, its branches a blur of wood and fury, too swift and strong for even a seasoned charm to deter. No sign of Leo, no trace of a struggle beyond the disturbed earth. The official stance quickly became Leo likely pranked them and fled into the forest, a story Elias knew was a lie. Leo wouldn't leave him like that. Not with his bag still in their dorm. Not without a note. The next morning, sleep-deprived and hollow-eyed, Elias was a wreck. He tried other professors, Hagrid, who just shook his head grimly and muttered about bad business before retreating to his hut, Professor McGonagall, who listened with a stern but sympathetic ear before concluding that the Willow, despite its recent aggressive turn, was merely a dangerous plant, Mr. Thorn, and perhaps Leo was more careless than we thought. No one truly grasped the dread that emanated from the tree, the sense of malevolence that settled in his bones like a shroud. It wasn't just a plant anymore. He knew it. He skipped breakfast, the thought of food curdling his stomach. He couldn't focus in charms, his wand feeling uselessly heavy in his trembling hand. His mind kept replaying Leo's stare, the triumphant grin, the casual wave, swallowed by the growing shadows of the Willow. Guilt gnawed at him, a familiar, poisonous worm, twisting deep in his gut. If he hadn't been so hesitant, if he'd just pulled Leo back, if he'd been brave enough to stop him. Then a name whispered through his memory, a desperate, last-ditch hope, Professor Alistair Grimshaw, the eccentric ancient runes master, known for his esoteric knowledge of fringe dark arts and demonology. Most students found Grimshaw's lectures dry and unsettling, filled with obscure rituals and forgotten languages. Elias, usually preferring safer subjects, had always been faintly uncomfortable in his class. But now, desperation overruled discomfort. If anyone knew something beyond standard Hogwarts lore, something about things that shouldn't be, it was Grimshaw. Elias found Grimshaw's classroom surprisingly easily, given its usual deserted air. It was located in a lesser-used tower, accessible by a winding, dusty staircase that smelled faintly of mildew and forgotten magic. The door was heavy, dark wood, scarred with what looked like ancient runes burned into its surface. He pushed it open to a scene that was both chaotic and meticulously ordered. Shelves crammed with ancient tomes, their spines cracking and pages yellowed, lined every wall, interspersed with strange artifacts, a petrified eye, a crystal ball swirling with murky smoke, a shrunken head that seemed to wink at him from a pedestal. The air was thick with the scent of old parchment, dust, and something metallic, like ozone or dried blood. Professor Grimshaw sat hunched over a desk littered with scrolls and a glowing, pulsating orb, his back to the door. He was a small man, wiry and surprisingly nimble for his age, with a shock of untamed gray hair that perpetually looked like he'd been struck by lightning. A pair of thick, half-moon spectacles perched precariously on his aquiline nose, reflecting the light from the orb. His robes, a drab, patched affair, seemed to absorb the ambient gloom. Mr. Thorn, Grimshaw rasped, without turning. His voice was like grinding stones, dry and low, rattling Elias's already frayed nerves. Come in. Don't hover like a frightened house elf. Elias jumped, startled. Professor, how did you know? Grimshaw finally turned, his eyes, magnified by his spectacles, glinting with an unnerving intelligence. They were a startling pale blue, sharp and dissecting. I hear the fear in your footsteps, boy. And a Gryffindor went missing near the Willow last night, didn't he? Coincidence? Perhaps. More likely, a pattern. He gestured vaguely to a rickety chair opposite his desk. Sit. Elias practically collapsed into the chair, his heart hammering against his ribs. You know about Leo? Grimshaw grunted, pushing a scroll aside with a gnarled finger. Of course. Whispers travel, even through the most oblivious faculty lounges. They'll blame the lad, of course. Reckless Gryffindor, full of bravado. Typical. But the Willow. He paused, his gaze drifting towards the window, though the cursed tree was too far to be seen from here. The Willow has been singing lately. Singing. Elias frowned, confusion momentarily overriding his fear. In a manner of speaking. A low thrum, a vibration only those sensitive enough to feel it can perceive. A growing malevolence. It's been quiet for too long. Dormant. But things are changing. Grimshaw turned back to Elias, his expression grave. Tell me everything from the moment you approached it. Elias recounted the previous night in breathless detail. Leo's dare, the initial casual approach, the sudden shift in the Willow's demeanor, the impossible speed of its branches, the chilling whisper that had seemed to coil around his very soul, and finally, Leo's disappearance, swallowed by the thrashing wood. He omitted his own paralysis by fear, the shameful way he'd stood rooted to the spot, but Grimshaw's keen eyes seemed to see through the omission anyway, a flicker of something unreadable in their depths. When Elias finished, the room was silent save for the faint crackling of the orb on Grimshaw's desk. Grimshaw steepled his fingers, tapping them thoughtfully against his chin. Whispers, you say? Unnatural speed? A palpable dread? No ordinary Whomping Willow, not even the one we're accustomed to. This sounds like a reawakening. A reawakening of what, sir? Elias asked, dread pooling in his stomach like ice water. Grimshaw leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, as if the very walls themselves might be listening. Centuries ago, long before Hogwarts was even a castle, this land was wilder, darker. Legends tell of an ancient, powerful demon named Bathsheba. She was not a demon of brute force, but of subtle corruption. She thrived on fear, despair, and the draining of life force, often using nature itself as her conduit. Elias shivered, the cold dread he'd felt near the Willow intensifying now with Grimshaw's chilling words. A demon? What does that have to do with the Willow? Bathsheba, Grimshaw continued, picking up a heavy, leather-bound tome, its cover embossed with unfamiliar, unsettling symbols, was challenged by a powerful order of ancient druids who guarded these lands. They managed to trap her, but not destroy her. They bound her essence to the strongest, most enduring thing they could find, a mighty sapling, which would one day grow into what we know as the Whomping Willow. He flipped open the book to a page filled with intricate, disturbing illustrations, skeletal figures entwined with thorny branches, faces contorted in agony emerging from tree bark, their eyes wide with terror. The curse was designed to contain her, to keep her dormant. But demons are insidious. Bathsheba's curse warped the Willow, turning it into a monstrous mimicry of her nature. It doesn't just strike, it ensnares. It doesn't just injure, it consumes. It feeds on fear, pain, and magic, growing stronger with each victim it claims. Elias felt his breath catch in his throat. So, it's not just a plant. It's possessed. In a way, yes. Her essence remains a malevolent consciousness. For centuries, it lay mostly dormant, a dangerous, but manageable, magical creature. The wards of Hogwarts, powerful as they are, were designed to protect against dark wizards, not ancient demonic curses that bleed through the fabric of reality itself. Bathsheba's curse bypasses typical magical wards and defensive spells, instead manifesting as a potent, ancient demonic force that feeds on fear, pain, and magic itself. It distorts perception, ensnares victims in grotesque, living wood, and attempts to drain their life force. But why now, Professor? Why is it suddenly worse? Elias pressed, desperate for an answer that made sense. Grimshaw stroked his chin thoughtfully. Perhaps the magical fluctuations from the Battle of Hogwarts disturbed something deep within the land. Perhaps a new ley line has surfaced. Or perhaps someone or something unwittingly fed it, allowing its ancient power to surge. The point is, it's awake now and hungry. He tapped the gruesome illustration with a bony finger. Your friend, Leo, is not merely trapped. He's likely being consumed, slowly, painfully, his fear and magic fueling the Willow's reawakened curse. A fresh wave of nausea washed over Elias, colder and more intense than before. Leo, trapped in that terrifying wood, suffering. And it was his fault. Always his fault. The memory of his sister's injured arm, the fear in her eyes, flashed before him with agonizing clarity. He clenched his fists, knuckles white, burying his fingernails into his palms. He had to help Leo. Is there a way to break it? Elias asked, his voice barely a whisper, thick with a desperation he rarely allowed himself to show. Grimshaw gave a grim, knowing smile that didn't reach his eyes. That, Mr. Thorne, is the million-galleon question. The ancient druids knew. Their records hint at specific ancient rituals or exceptionally powerful, selfless acts of will. But the knowledge is fragmented, hidden, and dangerous. Very dangerous. He closed the tome with a resounding thud that echoed in the quiet room. Bathsheba's influence doesn't just ensnare the body, it attempts to break the mind. It manifests as psychological torment, dark temptations, and grotesque illusions within the Willow, aiming to break a spirit and claim a soul. But you have some of this knowledge, don't you, Professor? Elias pressed, a desperate flicker of hope igniting within him against all odds. Grimshaw leaned back, studying Elias with his piercing gaze. I have theories. Fragments. And I am an old man, Mr. Thorne. Too old to face a reawakened demon. But you have a reason. A strong one. He paused, his expression softening almost imperceptibly, a rare moment of genuine empathy shining through his gruff exterior. Leo Finch, wasn't it? Daring, foolish boy. He trusts you, doesn't he? Elias nodded, his throat tight, his vision blurring slightly. He's my best friend. Then you understand. To break such a curse, one must not merely fight, one must sacrifice. Not necessarily life, but something equally precious. One must confront their deepest fears and overcome them, not for glory, but for another. Grimshaw's gaze seemed to bore into Elias's very soul. You carry a burden, Mr. Thorne. I can see it. A fear of failure, a past guilt. The Willow will prey on that. It will amplify it until you break. Elias swallowed hard, the familiar fear of his past mistakes resurfacing with a vengeance, threatening to drown him. But beneath it, a tiny spark of defiance began to glow, fueled by Leo's memory. Leo needed him. He couldn't fail again. He wouldn't. What do I need to do, Professor? Elias asked, his voice shaking but firm, a nascent resolve hardening his spine. Grimshaw nodded, a flicker of approval in his eyes. Good. I thought you had it in you. First, you need to understand the Willow's true nature. Its interior is not solid wood. It's a warped dimension, a living nightmare built from its victims' fears and Bathsheba's malevolence. It twists perception. Spells will be weaker or twist upon themselves. Your greatest weapon will be your mind, your resolve, and perhaps a small token of protection. He reached under his desk and pulled out a small, intricately carved wooden amulet, resembling a stylized, ancient tree with branches reaching towards a central, glowing gem. This is a minor ward, a focus for clarity. It won't stop the Willow's physical attacks, but it might help you distinguish between illusion and reality. Hold it, focus on it, and it will whisper truths that the Willow tries to obscure. It was crafted by the druids who first bound Bathsheba. Elias took the amulet. It was warm to the touch, and a faint hum vibrated through his fingers, a comforting thrum in the face of his terror. He felt a surge of something he hadn't expected, a sliver of hope, mixed with overwhelming dread. Now, the ritual itself, Grimshaw continued, pulling another, smaller scroll towards him, its parchment thin and brittle with age. The lore speaks of an echo of binding, a counter-ritual that must be performed within the Willow's heart, at the nexus of Bathsheba's essence. It requires focus, a pure intent, and a specific incantation that echoes the druid's original binding spell. It is powered by a selfless act of will, a willingness to confront your deepest fears for the sake of another, to sacrifice your own peace for their freedom. He pushed the scroll across the desk. It contained a complex sequence of runes and a long, guttural incantation, utterly alien to Elias's understanding. Memorize this. Understand its purpose, not just its words. The magic comes from your intent, not rote memorization. Elias stared at the scroll, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. This was it. The point of no return. He was going to face the cursed Whomping Willow, the demon-possessed tree that had taken his best friend, and try to break an ancient curse. Him. Elias Thorne, the Hufflepuff who avoided confrontation, who choked under pressure. The fear was immense, a towering wave threatening to crash over him, but so was the unwavering image of Leo's trusting, cheerful smile. I will, Elias managed, his voice stronger now, laced with a newfound determination. Thank you, Professor. Grimshaw merely grunted, his eyes returning to the strange orb on his desk, his attention already elsewhere. "Don't thank me, boy. Save your gratitude for when you emerge, if you emerge. And don't be a fool. The Willow will test you. It will show you your worst fears. It will try to break you. But remember this, courage isn't the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." Elias clutched the amulet and the scroll, the ancient wood warm against his palm. He stood, a new resolve hardening his spine, though his knees still felt weak. He might be afraid, terrified even, but Leo was in there. And Elias Thorne was going to get him out. He would face the Willow, its grotesque illusions, and the demon that lurked within. He had to. He walked towards the heavy door, the metallic scent of Grimshaw's classroom clinging to his robes like a premonition. The first step of his reluctant, terrifying quest was taken. He knew, with a chilling certainty, that his life was about to change forever. He stepped out of the tower, the bright afternoon sun momentarily blinding him. But even its warmth couldn't dispel the chill that had settled deep in his bones. The distant, ominous silhouette of the Whomping Willow seemed to beckon, its branches, though still, thrumming with an unseen, malevolent energy that only he, now, truly understood. He wasn't just going to rescue Leo, he was going to war with an ancient demon. And armed with Grimshaw's lore and the Druid's amulet, Elias Thorne, the timid Hufflepuff, took a deep breath and began to walk towards the forbidden forest, towards the heart of the Willow's demon grasp. The last rays of a bruised, violet twilight bled across the sky as Elias Thorne stood before the Whomping Willow, the parchment Grimshaw had given him clutched so tightly his knuckles ached. The ancient runes, painstakingly copied, felt like lead in his hand, a heavy burden of knowledge he prayed would be enough. Grimshaw's gruff advice echoed in his ears. "Fear is its nourishment, Thorne. Every doubt, every flicker of guilt. It'll taste it, twist it. Trust your eyes, but not your mind. And for Merlin's sake, don't touch anything that doesn't look like proper wood." Elias swallowed, his throat suddenly dry. The Willow was different now. Not just aggressive, but malevolent. Its gnarled branches, thick as dragon limbs, writhed with a slow, predatory grace even in the absence of wind. The air around it was thick, cloying, tasting of damp earth and something acrid, like burnt regret. It wasn't just cold, it was hollow, as if the Willow was actively sucking warmth and sound from the world around it. His Hufflepuff loyalty warred with a primal terror that screamed at him to run, to forget Leo, to seek safety. But the image of Leo's mischievous grin, of his unwavering belief in Elias, even when Elias himself had none, anchored him. He reread Grimshaw's notes for the 10th time. Entry point, the Weeping Scar, west side, near roots, when the moon is ascendant but not full. Ward against distortion, lumen veritatis charm, inscribed within the mind, empowered by a selfless intention. The moon, a sliver of silver, was indeed beginning its climb. The Weeping Scar was a fissure on the Willow's trunk, a gaping wound that seemed to weep a dark, viscous sap, resembling dried blood in the dim light. It looked less like an entrance and more like a maw. Taking a deep breath, Elias tried to focus. Selfless intention. For Leo. For his family. To stop this thing. He traced the runes in his mind, feeling the familiar hum of magic as he recited the Lumen Veritatis charm under his breath. It was a complex series of invocations, not a wand-waving spell, designed to strengthen the mind's defenses against illusion. He felt a faint, golden warmth spread from his chest, a fragile shield against the encroaching dread. "All right, Elias," he whispered, his voice shaking. Just like Grimshaw said. In and out. He approached cautiously, his wand clutched tight. The ground beneath his feet grew soft, like rotten earth, and the faint scent of decay intensified. As he drew closer, the Willow's lowest branches, thick as an anaconda, seemed to stir, twitching like watchful fingers. He could almost hear it breathing, a low, rasping sigh that vibrated in his bones. His heart hammered against his ribs. He pushed down the memory of his sister's screams, the broken vial, the scorching potion, the incident that had forged his fear. Not now. Focus. He reached the scar. It wasn't just a crack, it was a swirling vortex of darkness, framed by layers of contorted, bark-like flesh that pulsed faintly. The air inside it was visibly distorted, shimmering with an unseen energy. This was not merely wood. It was a living portal to something ancient and hungry. Hesitantly, Elias stepped through. The world outside vanished, replaced by an oppressive, suffocating darkness that pressed in from all sides. He was inside the willow. It wasn't hollow, it was a labyrinth constructed of grotesque, living wood. Roots like skeletal hands clawed from the floor, reaching for him. Twisted branches, sharp as blades, formed a canopy overhead, perpetually dripping a viscous, glowing sap that fizzed as it hit the ground. The air was thick with the stench of rot, damp earth, and something metallic, like old blood. His lumen veritatis charm flickered, struggling against the immediate assault on his senses. Whispers, faint at first, began to slither into his mind. They spoke of failure, of cowardice, of his accident. "You broke her," a child's voice, high and reedy, cried from the shadows. "Your fault. All your fault." Elias flinched, clutching his wand tighter. "No," he muttered, forcing himself to breathe, to focus on the reality of the gnarled roots around him. "That's not real." But the voice persisted, joined by others. His parents' disappointed tones, his professor's sighs, even Leo's cheerful dismissal of his anxieties, now twisted into accusations. "You're useless, Thorn. Always have been. You'll fail, just like always." He cast a quick lumos, the light struggling to pierce the gloom. It illuminated only a few feet around him, casting dancing shadows that seemed to take on monstrous forms. The tunnel he was in sloped downwards, the path uneven and treacherous, made of fused, petrified wood. He pressed on, his fear a cold knot in his stomach, but Grimshaw's words were a lifeline. "Don't touch anything that doesn't look like proper wood. And trust your eyes, but not your mind." Suddenly, the floor beneath him shifted. A root, thick as his thigh, erupted from the ground, wrapping around his ankle. Elias cried out, stumbling. He fell, scraping his hand on the rough, splintered bark. The root tightened, pulling him downwards, towards a gaping chasm that had opened moments before, revealing glistening, jagged splinters within. "No!" He lashed out with his wand. "Defendo!" A weak cutting charm hit the root, but it merely scraped the surface. The willow was too ancient, too powerful. Desperation surged. He remembered a lesson from Charm's class, an advanced defensive spell. "Expulso!" he yelled, aiming directly at the point where the root joined the wall. A burst of raw, concussive force erupted from his wand. The root bucked, momentarily loosening its grip, and Elias, with a surge of adrenaline, tore his leg free. He scrambled back, heart pounding, watching as the root slowly retreated into the wall, the chasm sealing itself with an audible groan. His breath hitched. The willow was actively fighting him. He was truly inside something alive, something malevolent. This wasn't just a cursed tree, it was a monstrous organism. He pushed himself to his feet, trembling, but a flicker of grim determination ignited within him. He had fought back. He had survived the first attack. Grimshaw had said the willow fed on fear, but perhaps it also weakened when confronted. He continued deeper, the passage narrowing, the air growing warmer, more humid. The whispers intensified, weaving a tapestry of his worst moments. He saw fleeting glimpses in the shadows, his sister's terrified eyes, a broken potion bottle, his own horrified face reflected in the spilling liquid. He squeezed his eyes shut for a moment, then opened them. Illusions. They're not real. He kept walking, placing one foot carefully in front of the other, forcing himself to observe. The sap dripping from the ceiling wasn't merely glowing, it pulsed, a faint rhythmic beat. The walls themselves seemed to contract and expand. Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber. It was cavernous, illuminated by an eerie, phosphorescent moss clinging to the walls and ceiling. And in the center, suspended by thick, root-like tendrils, was a grotesque, shimmering cocoon. Elias gasped. It was massive, easily twice his height, and pulsed with the same dark, viscous sap that dripped from the willow's ceiling. And within its translucent walls, he could vaguely make out a shape. A human shape. Leo. A wave of relief, so potent it almost buckled his knees, washed over him. He was here. He was alive. But then, the willow shifted. The chamber walls began to move, branches snaking out, forming intricate, thorny patterns. The whispers in his head coalesced into a single, seductive voice, resonating from the very wood around him. It was feminine, ancient, and deeply alluring. "He is ours, little wizard," it purred. "A pretty morsel. But you are so much more interesting. So much more, broken." The moss on the walls intensified, swirling into patterns that morphed into images of his sister, smiling, unhurt, then twisting into images of her in pain, writhing. The voice continued, a silken promise. "We can fix it, Elias. We can undo your mistakes. Join us. Embrace the strength. Embrace the power you crave. And your sister, she will be well again. All you have to do is let go." A spectral hand, woven from shadow and glowing sap, reached out from the walls towards him, its long, elegant fingers beckoning. He felt a profound pull, a temptation so strong it made his teeth ache. The promise of absolution, of power, of erasing his past mistakes, it was almost overwhelming. His mind screamed for it. But then, he looked at Leo, suspended in that terrible cocoon, utterly still. Leo, who had always believed in him. Leo, who needed him now. Let go? Let go of his fear, yes. But also let go of his resolve, his purpose. He clenched his jaw, the lumen veritatis charm flaring weakly as he resisted the insidious pull. "You lie," he grated out, his voice hoarse, barely audible over the persuasive whispers. "You twist. You take." The voice hardened, the chamber growing colder, the light dimming. "Then you shall join him, fool. And watch as he becomes ours forever. Your sacrifice will be for nothing." As the last word echoed, the illusory images on the wall intensified, focusing solely on his sister, eyes wide with terror, surrounded by a magical fire. He heard her scream, sharp and clear, right beside him. And this time, a thick, gnarled branch, far larger than any he had seen yet, began to descend from the ceiling, directly over Leo's cocoon, its tip sharpened to a lethal point, dripping with the ominous sap. It was clear, the willow intended to finish Leo off, right before Elias's eyes, unless he succumbed. Elias watched, paralyzed by the horrific vision of his sister, as the massive, deadly spear of wood began its slow, inevitable descent. The air thickened, pressing down on Elias like a physical weight. Every creak of the living wood around him sounded like a groan of agony or a whisper of condemnation. He was deeper now, the path narrowing into a claustrophobic tunnel of tangled roots and hardened bark, oozing a viscous, dark sap that stuck to his robes and skin. The faint, sickly green glow that had illuminated the outer reaches was gone, replaced by a pulsating, internal light that seemed to emanate from the wood itself, a faint, unsettling crimson, like blood beating beneath skin. "Just keep moving, Elias." For Leo, the mantra was growing weaker, a flickering candle in a hurricane of dread. A chill snaked up his spine, unrelated to the damp air. He saw it first in the periphery of his vision, a flash of red hair, then a blur of a small, pale face. He stopped, heart hammering against his ribs. "Lily," he breathed, his voice raw. The image solidified, not his sister now, but a memory. The kitchen table, scattered ingredients. A cauldron bubbling violently, green fumes swirling, then an explosion that had sent glass shards flying. His younger sister, Lily, screaming, clutching her arm, crimson blossoming on her sleeve. "Elias, you idiot!" a distorted voice shrieked, echoing from the gnarled roots. It sounded like his mother, steeped in icy fury. "Look what you've done." He stumbled back, his wand clattering to the woody floor. He could feel the familiar, sickening lurch in his stomach, the cold sweat breaking out on his brow. The scene played out again, closer this time, the acrid smell of burnt potion filling his nostrils. Lily's face, contorted in pain and betrayal, stared directly at him. Her eyes, usually so bright, were pools of accusation. "It was your fault, Elias," a chorus of whispers hissed from every crevice. Careless. Weak. Always messing things up. His breath hitched. He closed his eyes tightly, trying to make it disappear. It's not real. Grimshaw said it feeds on fear. On guilt. But it felt so real. The agony of Lily's scream tearing at his ears. The shame a bitter taste in his mouth. He could practically feel the splintering wood of the kitchen table under his hands. When he opened his eyes, the illusion had shifted. He was in a classroom now, the familiar faces of his peers twisted into sneers. Draco Malfoy, even in his absence from Hogwarts, was there, laughing derisively. Thorn, the Hufflepuff who can't even brew a simple pepper-up. What use are you really? Professor Slughorn, usually so jovial, looked at him with profound disappointment. Such a waste of potential, Elias. Such a profound waste. The words pierced him deeper than any physical pain. He was right. I am useless. I can't do anything right. The old familiar thoughts, the ones he tried to bury under layers of quiet diligence, clawed their way out. This was why he never pushed himself, never took risks. Because risks led to failure, and failure led to pain for those he cared about. A deep, resonant voice, not quite male or female, rumbled from the very heart of the Willow, vibrating through his bones. You seek to rescue your friend, little wizard? You, who cannot even protect your own blood. You, who trembles at shadows. The voice was Bathsheba's, cold and ancient, yet oddly compelling. It offered a perverse comfort in its certainty of his weakness. Give up, Elias Thorne. Surrender your fear, your guilt, your very essence, and find oblivion. It is better than the struggle. Better than the endless cycle of disappointing yourself and others. Despair threatened to overwhelm him. His legs felt like lead, his arms heavy. He wanted to curl into a ball, to simply stop. Let the Willow consume him. Let it end the gnawing dread. Leo. Then, an image flashed through the suffocating despair. Not Lily's pain, but Leo's grinning face, his eyes twinkling with mischief. Come on, Elias. You can do it. Just a little bit more. It wasn't an illusion of Leo trapped, but a memory of Leo's unwavering belief in him. Leo, who always pushed him, always saw something more. And Grimshaw's gruff voice, echoing in his mind, the Willow preys on weakness, lad. But it also exposes strength. You find your resolve, you find your way. Grimshaw had spoken of the Willow's illusions being like a mirror, reflecting one's inner turmoil, but also a crucible. Elias squeezed his eyes shut again, but this time, he wasn't trying to make it disappear. He was fighting back. And oh, he roared, his voice cracking, but laced with a nascent fire he hadn't known he possessed. I am not useless. It was an accident. I've learned. I've grown. He forced his eyes open. The classroom, the sneering faces, Lily's accusatory stare, they flickered, wavered, but held firm. Bathsheba's voice hardened, a mocking laugh reverberating through the wood. A mere protest, little mouse. The truth of your inadequacy is etched into your very soul. My inadequacy won't stop me from saving Leo. Elias countered, his chest heaving. He reached for his wand, fumbling for it where it had fallen. His fingers brushed against the rough bark, and a spark of defiant magic, not a spell, but a pure surge of will, flared within him. He pointed his wand at the illusion of Lily, not with anger, but with a desperate resolve. It happened, he admitted, his voice raw with pain. And I carry that guilt. But it doesn't define me. I'm not that scared boy anymore. As he spoke, the illusion of Lily wavered, becoming translucent. The classroom scene dissolved into a shimmer. The oppressive weight eased slightly. It wasn't gone, not entirely, but it had lost its razor-sharp edge. He had acknowledged the fear, the guilt, but refused to let it control him. Bathsheba's voice was now a furious shriek, the Willow itself seemingly twisting in rage. You defy me? You resist the truth. The roots around him began to writhe, not just an illusion now, but physically. Thick, thorny vines, as wide as his arm, shot up from the walls, snapping like angry serpents. The crimson light pulsed faster, bathing the grotesque scene in a lurid glow. Elias scrambled backward, casting a frantic protego that shimmered weakly against the onslaught. The vines slammed into the shield, cracking it. Grimshaw said, willpower, selfless acts. Elias muttered, trying to recall more. The willow wasn't just illusions. It was physical danger now. He dodged a particularly thick vine that aimed for his head, feeling the wind of its passage. His fear hadn't vanished, but it was no longer paralyzing. It was a cold, sharp companion, a reminder of the stakes. He had to be smarter. He couldn't fight the entire willow. He noticed something amidst the chaos, a faint, ethereal glow, deeper within the tunnel. It was different from the lurid crimson, almost silver. Could that be it? Grimshaw mentioned a core, a nexus of the curse. Ignoring the snapping vines, Elias ducked and wove, casting rudimentary blasting curses at the roots that blocked his path, forcing new openings. He moved with a speed and agility he didn't know he possessed, driven by the silver light, driven by Leo. He wasn't thinking about failure now. He was thinking about the next step, the next obstacle, the next breath. The path twisted downward, becoming steeper. The air grew colder, even as the crimson light pulsed. The vines here were thicker, slower, almost petrified in their malevolence, but still alive. They formed grotesque sculptures of tormented faces and grasping hands that seemed to melt and reform as he passed. He finally reached a wider chamber, a cavern carved from living wood. The silver light, much stronger now, emanated from a central cluster of roots, twisted and gnarled, forming a grotesque altar. And there, suspended within a cage of pulsing, crimson wood, was Leo. His best friend was pale, his eyes closed, his usually vibrant Gryffindor robes tattered and stained with sap. Thin, silvery tendrils of magic, pulsing with the willow's crimson glow, snaked from the bark, piercing Leo's chest, his arms, his legs. He was barely breathing, his life force visibly draining away, feeding the monstrous tree. "Leo!" Elias cried, a fresh wave of horror and desperation washing over him. He rushed forward, but an invisible barrier, crackling with dark energy, slammed him back. The impact knocked the wind out of him, sending his wand skittering across the floor. Bathsheba's voice, now a triumphant roar, filled the chamber. The hero arrives. Just in time to witness his friend's final moments. "See, Elias Thorne? You were too slow. Too weak. Too late." Elias scrambled back to his feet, ignoring the throbbing pain in his head. His eyes darted between Leo's slowly fading form and the pulsating, silver-infused roots that formed the core of the curse. This was it. The heart of the willow. And Leo was trapped directly within its grasp. He picked up his wand, his hand trembling, but his resolve hardening. He might have been too late to prevent Leo's suffering, but he wouldn't be too late to save him. The image of Lily, injured, forgotten years ago, solidified in his mind, not as a source of guilt, but as a stark reminder of what he had to prevent from happening again. He would not fail Leo. He would not. But how? How could he possibly break this ancient, demonic curse when Leo was tethered directly to its core, and he couldn't even reach him? Grimshaw's words returned to him, clearer now amidst the roaring chaos, a very specific counter-ritual. It requires not just power, but a deep, selfless act of will. A sacrifice, Elias. A true sacrifice. Elias looked at Leo, fading before his eyes. Then he looked at the pulsing, malevolent heart of the willow, the silver glow that was both the source of the curse and, perhaps, its only weakness. He understood now. The sacrifice wouldn't just be of magic. It would be of something far more precious. And he knew, with a terrifying certainty, exactly what Bathsheba would demand. The air within the Whomping willow pulsed with a final, desperate malevolence. Elias knelt beside Leo, his best friend's face etched with pain, barely visible beneath a thin, crystalline layer of sap-like residue that encased him. Leo was alive, for now, but his chest barely rose, and the unnatural glow in his eyes spoke of a soul teetering on the precipice of consumption. Elias had found him, had battled through the vile illusions of his past, but the ultimate confrontation still awaited. "He's fading, little Hufflepuff," a sibilant whisper slithered through the grotesque, pulsing veins of wood around them, distorting into a mockery of his sister's voice. Such a shame. All that loyalty, all that love, wasted. You could walk away, you know. Leave him. Save yourself. The willow needs a heart, Elias. It will take yours. Elias ignored the taunt, his gaze fixed on the ancient runic inscription Grimshaw had painstakingly deciphered, a faded diagram etched into a fragment of bark, depicting a heart-like structure deep within the willow's core. The heartwood, Grimshaw had explained, his voice low and serious in Elias's memory, where Bathsheba's ancient hunger truly resided. To sever it, one must offer a shard of true compassion, channeled through magic, at the risk of being consumed by the very darkness you sought to cleanse. He looked at Leo, then at his own trembling hands. Compassion. A shard of true compassion. His mind flashed to his sister, to the guilt that had crippled him for years, the fear of causing harm with his magic. This ritual demanded the opposite, a complete surrender to purpose, an unwavering belief in his own power, directed not at self-preservation, but selfless love. No, Elias whispered, the single word a defiance against years of self-doubt. His fear was still a gnawing beast in his gut, but it was overshadowed by a fierce, protective fire he hadn't known he possessed. Leo, always so bright, so reckless, so full of life. He wouldn't let him be a husk. His eyes scanned the immediate area. The heartwood wasn't a physical organ, but a nexus of dark magic, manifested as a swirling vortex of shadow and ancient bark at the base of the massive trunk he and Leo were trapped in. It pulsed with a sickening rhythm, drawing power from the very air, from Leo's weakening magic, from Elias's own lingering fear. Grimshaw's instructions flooded his mind, an intricate series of runic chants, culminating in a powerful, self-sacrificing magical output. It wasn't a destructive spell, but a cleansing, a purification. And it required a conduit, something personal, something imbued with his intention. Elias unclasped the silver locket from around his neck, a gift from his parents, bearing a tiny, faded photo of him and Leo as first years, grinning mischievously. He held it tight, focusing his will, his love, his desperate hope into the small metal charm. This was his shard of compassion. Taking a deep breath, Elias began to chant the runes Grimshaw had taught him, his voice trembling at first, then gaining strength, resonating through the oppressive silence of the willow. Amor puro, vincula maternum. Tenebris cor, lumen invoco. Per meum sanguinum, per meum spiritum. Labura cor, solve nexus. As the words left his lips, a faint, golden aura began to emanate from his body, his magic responding to his intent. The willow shuddered violently. Branches writhed, grotesque faces carved into the bark contorted in silent screams. Bathsheba's influence was fighting back. Illusions flared around him. His sister, injured and tearful, accusing him with wide, innocent eyes. His parents, disappointed. Even Grimshaw, shaking his head, deeming him a failure. Each image was a potent psychological assault, designed to break his concentration, to reignite his fear of not being enough. But Elias pushed through. He pictured Leo laughing, pulling him into some ill-advised adventure. He pictured the easy camaraderie, the unshakable trust. That was his compass. That was his strength. He raised the locket, channeling his magic into it, pouring every ounce of his Hufflepuff loyalty, every scrap of courage he'd found within himself. The locket glowed brighter, humming with energy, becoming a beacon against the encroaching darkness. He pointed it directly at the swirling heartwood. For Leo, he roared, his voice no longer trembling, but filled with a resolute power that surprised even himself. Purge tenebras, solve vincula. Vita radi, veritas surge. A blinding flash of golden light erupted from the locket, piercing the shadowy heartwood. The willow screamed, a visceral, guttural sound that seemed to tear at the very fabric of reality. The light, pure and untainted, began to tear through the ancient, demonic curse. Bathsheba's influence materialized fully then, not as an illusion, but as a writhing, shadowy mass, vaguely feminine in form, coalescing from the core of the heartwood. Her eyes, 2 points of malevolent crimson, fixed on Elias. "You fool!" Her voice shrieked, 1,000 souls crying out in agony. "You cannot fight what is ancient. Your pathetic light is nothing against my hunger. I will consume you both. I will claim this school, this world." She lashed out with tendrils of shadowy energy, striking at Elias, trying to sever his connection to the locket, to the ritual. The force was immense, throwing him back, his head slamming against the unforgiving wood. Pain lanced through him, but he held fast, the locket still aimed, still pouring out light. He felt his own magic draining, his core growing cold, but he pushed harder, remembering Grimshaw's warning, risk of being consumed. He was willing. You feed on fear. Elias gasped, gritting his teeth, but I offer you love, loyalty, hope, and you cannot consume that. With a final, desperate surge of magic, Elias poured everything he had left into the ritual. The golden light intensified, becoming an unstoppable torrent. The shadowy form of Bathsheba shrieked again, her form beginning to unravel, dissipating like smoke in a hurricane. The heartwood, no longer a swirling vortex of darkness, began to crackle and splinter, not rotting, but disintegrating into dust, revealing a core of ancient, vibrant wood, clean and pure. The sickening pulse ceased. The oppressive dread lifted. A wave of intense relief washed over Elias, so potent it nearly brought him to his knees. He swayed, completely drained, but the locket in his hand pulsed faintly, a soft warmth replacing the blinding light. The grotesque faces on the willow's bark softened, melting away, leaving behind smooth, ancient patterns. The grasping branches relaxed, no longer threatening, merely part of a magnificent, massive tree. The strange, sap-like residue covering Leo shimmered, then receded, dissolving into nothingness. Elias stumbled forward, collapsing beside Leo. He gently touched his friend's cheek. Leo's eyes fluttered open, still glazed, but the unnatural glow was gone, replaced by a dull confusion. Elias. Leo mumbled, his voice hoarse, his gaze unfocused. What happened? A wave of pure joy, untainted by fear, washed over Elias. He had done it. He had saved Leo. You're safe, Leo, Elias whispered, tears blurring his vision. You're safe. But the rescue wasn't complete. They were still deep inside the massive tree. Now, however, the willow was quiescent. The pathways, once filled with illusions and grasping roots, were merely intricate wooden tunnels. Elias, despite his exhaustion, found a flicker of determination. He managed to rouse Leo, half carrying, half dragging him through the now harmless interior. The journey back was a blur of aching muscles and a profound sense of accomplishment. They moved through silent, echoing chambers, the air growing fresher, lighter with every step. Elias found a crack in the bark, a fissure that had been hidden by Bathsheba's magic, now wide enough for them to squeeze through. They stumbled out onto the grassy grounds of Hogwarts, blinking in the harsh afternoon light. The Whomping Willow stood tall and proud, its branches swaying gently in the breeze, no longer a thrashing monstrosity. It looked normal. Serene, even. Professor Grimshaw, who had evidently been waiting with an antsy Professor Sprout and a few nervous Aurors, rushed forward. His gruff expression softened into something akin to awe as he saw Elias supporting a dazed Leo. Thorn, you did it, you mad Hufflepuff, Grimshaw rasped, his eyes scanning the quiescent Willow. She's quiet. The curse is broken. Elias just nodded, too exhausted to speak. He helped Leo to the waiting Metawizards, then sank to the ground, his body giving out, but his heart soaring. He looked at the Willow, then at his hands. They weren't shaking anymore. He had faced his greatest fear, not just confronting Bathsheba, but trusting his own magic, his own judgment, his own strength, for the sake of another. The guilt of his past still lingered, a faint shadow, but it no longer defined him. He was no longer the timid Hufflepuff, paralyzed by self-doubt. He was Elias Thorne, who had walked into a demon's maw and emerged victorious. As he watched Leo being carefully levitated towards the hospital wing, a new question surfaced in Elias's mind. What would happen to the Willow now? And if Bathsheba's ancient hunger had truly been severed from the tree, did that mean the demon was truly vanquished, or merely unleashed upon the wider world, seeking a new, more potent vessel? The peace felt fragile, almost too quiet, leaving Elias with a lingering sense of unease. He had faced his demons, but perhaps the world still had more to show him.